Hey, Kate.
Hey, how are you?
Pretty good. So, this episode is going to be all things detectors.
hmm
Okay.
Yeah.
So, let's get started.
Okay.
All right. If somebody only had one detector in their house, what would you say that should be?
Smoke detector.
Okay, good one. All right. Yeah. And so now the one I have in my house is actually wired into my security system
hmm
so that when it goes off, it alerts the fire department.
Now, let me tell you. So, there was one night I'm working patrol, and there was a residence that had that. It was wired into the alarm system. And so the alarm company called them and they said, "We're getting an alarm saying that your house is on fire." And they looked around and they said, "Everything's good," not realizing that their roof was actually on fire. So by the time that they started seeing the flames coming out the window, the house was already engulfed as far as the
Wow.
attic and the roof. So by the time that I got the call, it was maybe within 5 minutes from the time that they got the call from the alarm company initially, and the house was almost gone.
Wow.
So if the alarm company calls you, before you tell them everything's okay, not to send anybody out, make sure you check everywhere.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Now, here's the only thing with it, okay, is that if you set off your smoke detector because you burnt something on your stove, it's not as easy to shut off.
Yes, there's that.
So there's kind of pros and cons with this, all right? Which you can ask me how I know that because I know that.
Because you had a friend over that was baking for you.
Yeah, it's like this random person comes running in my house and says, "I'm going to cook for you tonight," and we're like, "Okay." So they make us a dinner and they burn it all, and then the smoke detector goes off, and then I'm getting calls. Okay, and they're like, "We know the smoke detector is going off. We just burnt something on the stove." So it's
And
not
that's a typical holiday alarm system on the stove, isn't it? The
like,
alarm.
yeah. Well, no, no, not in my household because I go out to dinner for holiday dinners.
Oh, see, even better.
Not worried about that.
Waited all the way around.
Of course, now the pros of that, and that still needs batteries too, by the way.
Yes.
Okay. So just because it's wired in doesn't mean you don't need batteries. Well, it's not wired into the house, it's wired into my security
But
company.
some of them are wired, and then therefore the batteries are the backup system. So if the wire were to go faulty, at least you'd have the batteries to still be a backup system, which is why it's still important to test those every month.
Yeah. Oh, no, no, no. And here's the other thing about testing them. Okay. When you test them, you're going to get a really good idea of how your pet's going to react to that sound.
Do you want to see?
Yes.
So here I have my smoke detector, and here's the little test button on there. And if I press this, I will say that my dogs will start barking, or at least start going crazy. They're all like, "What?" So the my one dog that, oh my gosh, as soon as she heard it, she would just start barking, and it would just start everybody to start barking. She's passed away, but it I always say in my classes that's a really good way to indicate where possibly your animals are going to scatter to,
Right.
or where they may be in the house if something were to happen.
Yeah. Okay, so there's like I said, the battery operated versus um, wired into the house, wired into your security system. Okay, and I was here. So my smoke detector isn't just a smoke detector; it's also a gas detector.
Oh, nice.
Okay, so when they wired my gas stove incorrectly,
Hmm,
okay, um, I had a gas leak in the house.
not good.
No, but it went off. And let me tell you something, those alarms going off, you're going to be woken up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Initially, though, I don't know why it's going off. Okay. Figured out because then all of a sudden now I could smell the propane. So opened up all the doors, get the animals out of the house. I also then set off the alarms on the doors, not realizing I set off the alarms on the doors because the smoke detector is going off. Okay, I was here by myself, and that still hadn't come up yet. It's really dark here, and when you come from like more of an urban area, the dark is dark. It's just dark,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So I put on the alarms, and the police were the first to arrive, and I got a snarky letter from them.
Saying what?
Well, we're going to let this one slide. Meanwhile, there's obviously an emergency going on in my house.
Right.
Okay. Fire trucks came in. Fire department was awesome. But then I get the snarky letter, and I'm going to paraphrase. We're going to let this one slide. You do it again. You call us for no reason. We're going to charge you.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. People who know me will, when I read it, you'll know exactly my response to that letter.
Did you say some swear words?
Oh, yeah, I might have. But honestly, it saved the life of everybody. That alarm going off saved the life of everybody in my house, because I would have slept through the propane leak.
Right. Right.
Okay, so that's number one. And then a couple weeks later, I'm sitting here at my office, and what I didn't know at the time is I border state property, and there's an area where they do all the work, and apparently they were burning stuff. Okay. But if you looked out my window, it looked like a fire in my backyard. So I called the fire department, in which they came out, and they had words apparently with them because it was not the right time of year to burn fire.
Oh.
Yeah. We don't care if you're a state. You can't do that. But anyway, they were nice, and I did not get a snarky letter from them. And when I asked them if I was going to get a snarky letter, their response to me was, well, we're not the sheriff's department.
I was going to say, wow, there's a difference between police and fire.
Yeah. So, all right. So, we got the smoke detector. You should have a gas detector, a carbon monoxide detector.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And again, checking your batteries.
Yeah.
Most experts say once a month, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. You want to do once a month. I mean, if you were to go a month and a half, okay, but you just want to make sure that everything's a working condition.
Yeah. Okay. And then after the detectors, the smoke, fire, and carbon monoxide detectors, a charged fire extinguisher would be good to have also.
That would be very good. And I am finding that there's a lot of people that don't know how to use a fire extinguisher.
Oh, okay. So I took a CERT class, a community emergency response training, 20-hour class. It's free. They are tax dollars paid for this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Yes, it's 20 hours. It's a lot of your time. It is so worth your time. But you know what we got to do during the CERT class? Hey,
Just a fire extinguisher?
no, not only that. They gave us a fire hose to put out a fire.
Nice. So you got to feel all that pressure?
Yes.
Nice.
So that was a lot of fun. It is really great training. Again, it's free somewhere in your community. I know here in Squim, which is a small town, there's at least a CERT thing going on every single month.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So if you don't know where to even look for a CERT class, contact your fire department.
And usually if you Google CERT training and then type in your area, it should pop up too.
Yeah. But usually the fire departments are a really good source of education and information. I
Mhm.
find they are far, and don't anyone who is a police officer or whatever throw shade on me. But I find the fire department to be really, really helpful.
Fire and police deal with different calls. So you have police that are dealing with a lot of criminals and they're dealing with a lot harsher things. Not to sit here and say the fire doesn't deal with harsh things, but two different clientele bases. And so you're going to have two different type of attitudes with that.
Okay. I love the fire department. So
The fire is different. And the other thing too is fire, they work in shifts. So they have multiple guys per shift. Usually with police, you're usually working by yourself all night. And then when you show up to a call, you've got your partners that show up and that's your backup. So camaraderie is completely different as well.
okay, I can see that.
Yeah.
Because as the group of firefighters were walking back from the back edge of my property over, they seemed to be having a really good time because they got to chew out some state employees.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and then got to ride in the fire truck with the alarm go with the thing going. So I don't know.
Yeah. Fire. I've always loved fire. I've never had that police versus fire just because I grew up with firemen. So I always love the firefighters, but they always have a great sense of humor.
Yeah.
They do.
All right. Before we move on, let's go play our commercial.
Ooh.
Yes.
Are you tired of putting off your emergency and disaster planning manual? Look no further. This 67-page fillable template will make the process a breeze. Simply fill in the blanks for your business and gain access to checklists for supplies, common hazards, debriefing, evacuation and shelter-in-place protocols, resources, recovery, maintenance, as well as best intake practices. It's time to take action and be prepared. Get your copy today at positiveed.com/books.
Okay. Which that template makes it really easy to put together a plan. I know. Is that the template back there, Kate?
It is.
Wow.
And where can they find it?
At positiveed.com/books.
Very nice.
Okay. Also available on Amazon too, by the way.
Very, very nice.
There you go. Okay. So now back to fire extinguishers. Right. So, and not only that, if you've had a fire extinguisher, like, I don't know, forever, maybe check to see if it's still charged.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can always take it to the fire department and they can check it out if you're not really sure. And if worse comes to worse and you're really not sure, then just go get a new one.
Yeah, they're not too totally. Would you go, let's Google the price of a new fire extinguisher.
I think it's like 40 something bucks.
That's it?
Yeah. It depends on the size, but
Okay. Fire extinguishers from Amazon, fire extinguishers.
No, minus the Cyber Monday.
Okay. You gotta get a 6-pack for $70. Most of them seem to be the single ones, look to be like $35, $30, $32. All right.
Yeah, they're not that expensive.
They are not that expensive. Okay. And what I've heard is, do you recharge them or do you just buy new ones? How well do they hold up to being recharged?
You know what? I would say go to the fire department. Like if I would probably maybe if it was needed to be charged one more time, I would go to the fire department and see what they say. They'll be able to look at that extinguisher and see the condition of the extinguisher. You don't want to keep recharging it and then have it be 20 years old, right?
Right.
So I would take it to the fire department and have them check it out, and they'll be able to guide you with what you need to do next.
Okay. And knowing where your fire extinguisher is in the house too is also a good thing.
Wow. Yeah. And I would definitely highly recommend having more than one.
Yeah.
And for sure have one in the kitchen.
One in the kitchen. You know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, maybe I put one in my greenhouse.
Oh yeah.
No, I did not think of that. So one in my greenhouse and probably one here, another one here in my office, and it's at the other end of the house.
Mhm.
And Cyber Monday still, so maybe I'll get that little 6-pack for $70.
Yeah, you don't have much time left.
Yeah. Okay. Another thing to have besides the detectors again now in your kitchen, and I have one because Angie bought it for me.
Yes, I was just going to talk about those.
The fire blankets.
Yeah.
So, well, all I know is it's hanging on my wall. If I'm in a fire, I'm going to open it up and throw it on the fire.
Do you know I actually have one in my grooming room?
Okay. Why?
Because you just never know. And if the dryer were to start on fire, I'm not going to see her. Okay. If my dryer were to start on fire, am I going to use water to put that out?
No, I think that's counterproductive.
Right. So that's where I would hope to have my fire extinguisher. But you never know what can happen. You never know what could set off on fire that maybe you would need the fire blanket. And really, quite honestly, it could even be where you wrap the dog in it or wrap yourself in it to have to get through the doorway to get outside to safety.
Okay. All right. So then my next question is that do you know how to get out of your house in the event of a fire? I mean, that sounds kind of stupid,
But it's not.
but it's not.
And that's where not only do you sit here and go, well, yeah, the front door is right there, but what other exits? Because what happens if the fire is in front of the front door? Then where are you going? Do you have a 2-story house? Do you have a basement? To sit here and make a plan with multiple exits, what are you going to do if? What are you going to do if is not a silly thing.
Yeah. So for my house, it's got a lot of doors, probably a lot more doors than I realized until after the house was built. And I'm like, boy, there are a lot of doors here in this house,
Which is good, right?
Which is good because there's, in addition to the front door, there's an exit from each of the 2 bedrooms. There's an exit from the garage. There's an exit from my office, all separate exits. And there's basically 2 exits from the living room, the deck, and then the front door. And then another exit into the garage. A lot of doors.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing too is not only the doors, but your windows. Do you know how to operate the window? Do you know how to open the window? I don't think breaking a window sometimes is as easy as people think. And then there's the screens. Do your screens come off, or are you going to go through the screen? But just kind of have that plan. You're not going to know it until the moment occurs, but at least have that plan and have some sort of idea of what you might do.
Okay. Angie's going to get a membership at Costco. When I go shopping this week, I'm going to check to see if Costco has got fire extinguishers.
Oh, I would think that they do. Yeah.
I bet they do.
I think they do. I don't have a Costco membership, but I've been in Sam's before and they have them.
Okay. So, all right. So we got the fire extinguishers, the fire blankets, the detectors. What else do we need?
I have one.
Okay.
So I love this product. I've been a fan since the very, very beginning, and they are making improvements to it. But not only do we need detectors for ourselves, but now there's detectors out there for our pets as well. And so that is the Rescue Retriever. And some people have seen it, some people haven't. I know a lot of people still out there haven't really heard of this. So the Rescue Retriever is actually developed by a local firefighter. And the thought process is, instead of that real loud noise, like my smoke detector that I just did a little bit earlier to let you know that there's smoke, this one, what it does, and hopefully if you are prone to seizures, look away. And of course, I'm going to try and do it. No, it won't. But what it does is it has a really, really high beam strobe light, And the concept is you're supposed to put that where you think your animals may go in the case of a fire, where they may hide, where their kennel may be, hang it on the kennel. There's Velcro that comes with it, so you can hang it on a door, but kind of give the fire department a visual clue of where to go to start looking for your animals. So it's one thing to sit here and have the sticker on the front and say, hey, I've got 5 dogs in here. But once they get in there, where do they even start to look? So yeah, they may know that the animals are there, but they still have to clear the whole house versus having that blinking light and kind of guiding them to where they may need to go. I do know that they're working with fire departments to have that as far as part of the questions that the dispatcher asks. Do you have a rescue retriever? So then the fire department knows when they walk in and see that light to start going towards that light. But they're also working on the detectors to actually attach to the collars.
See, that's what I would like.
It's coming soon. I know it's coming soon. And so then this way you will have your main unit, and then that main unit communicates to the collars.
Okay, very cool. I'm going to look forward to that.
Yeah, so that gets me excited because I think, we think about ourselves, but this also thinks about our animals as well.
Okay. And, before we wrap up for tonight, so this podcast is going to be part of something called Podcast-thon. And it's podcasts from around the world. And it's going to be a week devoted to it, whatever like the normal drop date is for that particular podcast. Like for us, the drop date for the live is Monday, but when it goes up on the podcast, the drop date is going to be a Tuesday.
Oh, for Giving Tuesday?
No, just on Tuesdays.
Okay.
So it's to bring awareness to nonprofits. So we are our nonprofit is Bishop's Mission.
Yay. Okay. Thank you.
And what we are looking for, because this podcast, actually, we don't have sponsors for this podcast. Mm-hmm. But we are going to look for a sponsor for that episode. Okay. So if you are a business and you would like to sponsor the episode, in which case the entire amount of the sponsorship goes directly to the Bishop's Mission. Mm-hmm. In fact, it'll be a direct donation. So it's not going to come through our hands. It's going to go directly to the mission. So you'll get the tax write-off for it. Mm-hmm. Right. So if you are interested in that, please, as a business, let us know. We would like one sponsor at 500 because this is only a half-hour podcast. Okay. Right. So if you're interested, either message me or Kate so that we can sort of lock that in for you.
And so do you want me to explain what Bishop's Mission is so they know?
Yes, you can. But just one thing before you do that.
Yes.
Okay. The drop date is like the middle of March. Okay. What is Bishop's mission, Kate?
Bishop's Mission is Bishop and I that go out and we work with departments. We get called out for critical incident. I'm trained for critical incident stress management. So I'm able to go in and sit in on the debriefs and utilize Bishop with them because Bishop is trained for service to recognize PTSD as well. And so he can transfer that and he can go around and he will know who he needs to focus on more than others. So we offer animal assistance for the first responders for their mental health wellness. And then with his recent surgery and going through that whole experience, what I'm also trying to do is build a emergency fund for first responder and veterans service dogs. So if they have an emergency and end up in the emergency room, that they have funding to help them out to try and save that dog. I realized the way that it worked. I was in the emergency room. I have my dog who is my service dog, but he's also means a lot to a whole lot of people out there. And they hand me the estimate and say, all right, make some phone calls and let us know when you're ready. And that's a huge chunk of change. And not everybody has that. And this dog, especially for a lot of veterans, that's the only lifeline that they have that makes them normal. And to have to sit there and make that decision right then and there and have to possibly say goodbye because you can't afford it, I don't want to see that happen. And so Bishop's mission is trying to build an emergency fund. It'll be by application, but if there's a first responder or a veteran that has a service dog and they're in that situation, then I'm hoping that we'd be able to help them out.
Okay. So if somebody wants to make a donation, let's say they don't want to sponsor the podcast, but they just want to make a donation, how would they do that?
So they can go to www.bishopsmission.org, and I have my donation pages there. So I have the regular donation page, but then I also have a page specifically for the veterinary page, because if people want to specifically have their money go towards that, then I have a link for that so I can keep track of that separately. So there's links on the page to go to both of those.
Okay. So we're up on our half hour. Will we be back next week? I don't know. Let's see.
I think so.
Why, yes, we will. We'll be back next week. If you have something specifically you would like us to cover, please let us know. If not, Kate and I will just spitball something probably the day of.
We'll come up with something.
We'll come up with something. Hey, what are we talking about tonight? I don't know. What are we talking about? I don't know.
I thought you were picking.
I thought you were picking. This is how you know this is not a scripted podcast.
In the meantime, you guys can tell us what to pick.
Okay. So we'll see everybody next week.
Bye-bye.